you filthy swines! Get in here, sit down, and pay attention. There's a lot of money pumped into climate science and a lot of opinion about the direction that things are going in. The science is settled, apparently, according to some people. I don't think it is. I think there's a lot of politics baked into climate science, and a lot of it I don't like, because it seems to point towards deindustrialization, and I don't like that. I think we need to expand and not contract. You have a destiny to expand into this universe and spread life everywhere, I think, would be pretty awesome destiny. And one of the things apparently some people have been trying to do is geoengineer and dim the sun. We'll see. This article on Daily Mail, written by Jonathan Chadwick again, why dimming the sun isn't a bright idea. Scientists warn controversial geoengineering technique could wreak havoc on the weather and actually make climate change worse. In the battle against climate change, why would you even want to battle against climate change? I mean, the climate changes all the time. Why don't we just kind of chill out and not worry so much? It's fair to say scientists have proposed some fairly far-fetched ideas. One sci-fi worthy but controversial concept proposed to halt global warming involves dimming the sun, also known as stratospheric aerosol injection. It involves the release of tiny particles in the stratosphere by planes to reflect the sunlight away from Earth. You alluding there to chemtrails. Some hope SAI will cool the planet, stop the melting of sea ice, and save humans from a climate catastrophe. But according to a new study, it may actually have the opposite effect. Scientists in New York warn that such a technique could wreak havoc on the weather and actually make climate change worse. Dimming the sun could lead to extreme weather events such as floods and freezing cold snaps, as well as acid rain and human inhalation of toxic aerosols. What's more, proponents of the technique dramatically underestimate just how difficult and complicated it will be, they say. How geoengineering could cool the Earth. Planes release tiny particles to reflect the solar radiation. What planes? Are we talking about chemtrails here? No? Yes? Marine cloud brightening. Boats release aerosols which make low cloud more reflective. Bloody boats. Stop it, boats. SAI is just one form of geoengineering. Large-scale interference and manipulation of Earth's natural processes in an attempt to halt global warming. Typically, SAI involves the release of tiny sulfur dioxide particles into the stratosphere by an army of planes, although other compounds have been proposed too. Once injected into the stratosphere, sulfur dioxide forms sunlight-reflecting sulfate aerosols, said to have a cooling effect similar to that of a major volcanic eruption. The scientists say SAI was considered a fringe idea, but now it is a matter of serious scientific consideration. However, proponents dramatically underestimate just how difficult and complicated it will be. Are we not already doing this? Is this not a thing? The experts collected the scattered scientific literature on how SAI's impact would be shaped by the various aspects of its deployment. If the aerosols were released in the polar regions, they would likely disrupt tropical monsoon systems, which could have an effect on sea levels, they found. Meanwhile, releases concentrated in equatorial regions could affect the jet stream and disrupt atmospheric circulation patterns that conduct heat towards Earth's poles. It's not a good thing then. Maybe don't meddle. What potential problems have we got here? Ongoing ocean-driven melt is not prevented. Oh no! It's going to happen anyway. During winter, aerosol injection is ineffective and can even induce residual warming of the atmosphere. You stupid swines, don't do that. Ocean acidification continues unabated with increased impact on ocean food webs and biodiversity. Okay, this strategy requires ongoing commitment until net zero is achieved and can't be stopped without abrupt rise in temperature. What? How is this connected to net zero? I don't understand. I thought net zero was trying to tamp down on the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, not injecting stuff into the atmosphere. And also, I thought net zero was effectively a way of reducing the input and output energy required for any social system. So you're completely self-sufficient if you're net zero, because you're recycling everything. Your power is all local. Everything is local. So if bad stuff happens in Australia, you don't care. It's all local. And you live in, where do you live? Scandinavia, maybe. I don't know. That's net zero in my opinion, but maybe I'm wrong. This could trigger a dramatic climate change episode, such as a deep freeze either side of the Atlantic and more rainfall and wild weather. What's more, the use of sulfates for SAI could pose similar risks or additional environmental concerns, including acid rain and soil pollution. There's also the issue that in high levels, sulfur dioxide can cause nausea, vomiting, stomach pain, and corrosive damage to the airway and lungs. Other alternative materials proposed instead of sulfate due to their reflective qualities, such as diamond, are either not particularly abundant or raise technical challenges involved with dispersing them. You probably would devalue diamonds, wouldn't you, if you're just scattering them everywhere? Diamonds are raining down. I guess they'd be very small. Micro diamonds, nano diamonds. Some scientists who point to SAI as a solution often present simulations suggesting it would work effectively, but the reality may not be quite as effective, the team allege. Even when simulations in SAI and climate models are sophisticated, they're necessarily going to be idealized, said study author Faye McNeil, an atmospheric chemist at Columbia Climate School. Disappear. What is geoengineering? It's a large-scale manipulation of environmental processes that affect Earth's climate in an attempt to halt global warming. Globally, projects include injecting chemical aerosols into the atmosphere to reflect sunlight and absorbing CO2 dissolved in seawater. But critics have concerns that expensive geoengineering endeavors will backfire, causing destructive weather patterns and making climate change worse. No, not good. Researchers model the perfect particles that are the perfect size, and in the simulation they put exactly how much of them they want, where they want them, she said. When you start to consider where we actually are compared to that idealized situation, it reveals a lot of uncertainty in those predictions. Overall, there are several factors that affect how aerosols interact with Earth systems, such as the altitude, latitude, and longitude at which they are released, the time of year when this takes place, and the sheer number of particles involved. Even if the variables are perfectly considered and somehow the threats are negated, SAI would need to be done in a centralized, coordinated fashion, but given geopolitical realities, this is unlikely, according to the study in scientific reports. More broadly, deploying expensive geoengineering products may be a big distraction from global efforts towards reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Globally, other geoengineering projects include sucking carbon dioxide out of the air with giant fans. There's also ocean fertilization, adding nutrients to the upper ocean to stimulate plant growth, and afforestation, planting trees in areas where there was previously no forest. But there's concerns countries will pursue poorly regulated geoengineering projects in secret, especially sunblocking, which could have unintended consequences. What are the side effects of geoengineering strategies? Scientists have proposed all sorts of solutions to fight climate change. Why are we fighting the climate? It's very strange, including a number of controversial geoengineering strategies. Among them include afforestation, yes, planting trees, we know that. Drawback, this vegetation would also draw in sunlight that the deserts currently reflect back into space, and so contribute to global warming. Oh, I see. Well, the best reflective surface on the planet is ice, isn't it? Snow, or cloud cover, which is my assumption as to why chemtrails are so viable an idea, because they just simply reflect sunlight back into space. Artificial ocean upwelling. Engineers would use long pipes to pump cold, nutrient-rich water upward to cool ocean surface waters. Why? Leave it where it is. Drawback, if this process ever stopped, it could cause oceans to rebalance their heat levels and rapidly change the climate. You're just warming up the entire ocean, are you not? Are you just equalizing the temperature there? Ocean alkalization. This involves heaping lime into the ocean to chemically increase the absorption of carbon dioxide. Drawback, study suggests it will have little use in reducing global temperatures. So why are they doing it? Iron fertilization in the ocean. This method involves dumping iron into the oceans to improve the growth of photosynthetic organisms that can absorb carbon dioxide. We really don't like carbon dioxide, do we? So study suggests it will have little use in reducing global temperatures. Solar radiation management. This would reduce the amount of sunlight Earth receives by shooting reflective sulfate-based aerosols into the atmosphere. Yeah, that's the one I'm kind of going for there. Just reflecting the sun before it hits the Earth. In 2006, says Jana Phil from Plymouth, all international shipping switched to low sulfur fuel to reduce pollution. With reduced particles for moisture to condense on, oceanic cloud cover reduced significantly. With the extra insulation, sea temperatures measurably increased and still are. Clever, these scientists. Solar panels won't be much use then. Not that they are now in this country, as we are near the bottom of the list of blah, 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 blah. No one cares. Shush, sir. My own pet conspiracy theory is that they really are trying to engineer an ice age because I think perhaps people are more controllable in those circumstances. We'd all have to live in cities and eat the yummy, tasty bugs because shush and yum, they're tasty. We like them. Well, they've been doing it. It's clear. It's clear they've been at least running tests to see if it works, and I think they've probably been running it. It stands to reason to me, at least, that these contrails would end up creating a layer of very reflective upper atmosphere clouds. Chemtrail conspiracy theories. Why JFK Jr. is watching the skies by The Guardian. I thought that was a funny smell. Let's go here, shall we? And here we are. We're on The Guardian. Anyway. This article on The Guardian, written by somebody called Oliver Millman. He's a man, he goes to mills, who knows why. Chemtrail conspiracy theories, why JFK Jr. is watching the skies. Belief in a supposed US government plot linked to aircraft condensation trails has been boosted by confusion over proposals to geoengineer a response to the climate crisis. Now, the one example I think that would make this geoengineering make some sense is if our AI becomes so power hungry that we end up creating so much heat, perhaps then we need to try and cool things down, and then all of this talk of climate change is just a way of getting in front of what could actually be coming. So I am a bit tentative in being too critical of this because maybe they're just trying to get in front of something. A conspiracy theory that airplanes are leaving nefarious chemtrails in their wake due to a sinister government plot has been given fresh impetus in the US amid a swirl of concerns and confusion about proposals to geoengineer a response to the climate crisis. Well, I don't believe there is a crisis now. I think perhaps the crisis might be coming if our AI becomes super power hungry and everything gets crazy hot. State legislation to ban what some lawmakers call chemtrails has been pushed forward in Tennessee and most recently in Florida. Meanwhile, Robert F. Kennedy, who has expressed interest in the conspiracy theory on social media and his podcast, is said to be at the heart of Donald Trump's new administration following his nomination as health secretary. We're going to stop this crime, Kennedy, who is known for his contrarian stances on vaccines and offshore wind farms, wrote about chemtrails on X in August. The former Democrat turned Trump ally said on his podcast last year that it was kind of frightening to think that somebody may be putting large amounts of bioavailable aluminum into the environment, spraying it in microscopic particles from airplanes. Believers of the chemtrails conspiracy theory contend that the white lines traced in the sky behind aircraft contain toxic chemicals that are released to achieve a devious end, such as mass sterilization or mind control. Where are you plucking this from? I mean, this is a perfect example of by calling people believers and then adding these nonsense extra things. You're smearing the whole idea that maybe some people might be putting some stuff in the atmosphere that we don't like. And are we not interested in having a clean environment? Are we not interested in looking after the earth? If we're pumping large amounts of chemicals and stuff in the atmosphere, is that not something we should be concerned about instead of deriding it as being almost like a cult-like thing linked to mind control? This theory, which has no evidence to support it, that's not exactly true, has been put forward at various times since the 1990s, despite being repeatedly debunked. Now, scientists are faced with a resurgent focus on chemtrails amid a related or substantive debate over whether actual modifications to the Earth's atmosphere should be made in a desperate attempt to slow global heating. Okay, well, perhaps you can take your panic and put it in your pocket and leave it there. Interest in chemtrails bubbles up every once in a while, and the hurricanes and weather modification kind of brings it up to the floor again, said David Fahey, director of the Chemical Sciences Laboratory at the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, in reference to two recent major hurricanes, Helen and Milton, that some figures, including Republicans, claim were somehow steered by the federal government's meddling with the weather. The misinformation is abundant, says Fahey, who has spent several decades on and off fielding questions about chemtrails. There was no orchestrated weather modification conducted by NOAA, Fair said, and even experimenting with such a thing would be a big step for our agency, and one that we are not quite prepared to do at the moment. And maybe our agency shouldn't do it. Maybe not. Are chemtrails real? Apparently no. The white plumes seen from the rear of aircraft are more aptly called condensation trails, or contrails. They are essentially condensed water vapor from a plane's exhaust that, in cold air temperatures at high altitudes, form as ice crystals that look like visible clouds. A survey of leading atmospheric scientists in 2016 found there was no evidence of a secret spraying program that would form these contrails. This research led to backlash from conspiracy theorists, with Ken Caldeira, a climate scientist who led the study, saying that he received death threats, but I don't know. That seems like another appeal to emotions that I really don't like. Keep that away from me. I felt like it was a risk to my personal safety, he said. People have bought into this false narrative. We're now seeing a worrying resurgence of conspiracy theories in general, from chemtrails to vaccines. There's a detachment from facts and rational analysis. In fact, contrails do contribute to a form of weather modification. Oh no, they do now, do they? Okay. Just not the sort envisioned by the conspiracy. Oh no, not by those people, not by those folk. The plumes often grow into hazy, cirrus clouds that trap heat and add to the greenhouse effect that is warming up the world, mostly via the burning of fossil fuels. I thought clouds reflect the sun, though, don't they? If it's cloudy during the day, the sun is reflected. If it's cloudy at night, it traps in the heat. So, as with many conspiracy theories, there is some truth to it in that aircraft are releasing particles and affecting the Earth's climate system, said Caldeira. He was involved in an effort to get airlines to reduce their contrail output. But this is because of unintended consequences of the fossil fuel airline system, rather than some nefarious secret reason. Any other weather modifications being conducted? There is a confusing stew of different processes or just theories with different goals that have been variously called weather modification. Solar geoengineering or solar radiation management. These often get mixed up and mistaken for secret government. No one's necessarily saying they're secret. Just because you don't know about it doesn't necessarily mean it's secret to everyone. Cloud seeding, for example, involves dispersing tiny particles into the clouds to spur the formation of ice crystals that trigger rain or snow. Utah routinely does this to increase snowfall rates, and authorities have had to point out that this is not connected to chemtrails. A separate debate has stirred in recent years as to whether governments or even wealthy individuals should intervene to slow dangerous global heating by spraying reflective substances such as sulfur into the stratosphere in order to deflect sunlight from further warming of Earth. NOAA is setting up systems to monitor the stratosphere that could act as an early warning system for such activities. The US startup has offered credits for people to buy in order to help cool the world's fever, but as yet there has been no activity detected on a significant scale that would alter the climate. There are some demonstration projects, said Faye, but in terms of large-scale airplanes taking materials to the stratosphere, I'm not aware of anything, certainly in our country. Can solar engineering help solve the climate crisis? Well, I don't know if there is a crisis. These are buzzwords, aren't they? These are talking points. Climate crisis. I don't see the crisis. Maybe there's a crisis and I need to be educated. This year is set to be the most hottest ever recorded globally. The latest in a string of hot years that are pushing the average temperature to the point it looks certain to breach the internationally agreed threshold designed to avoid catastrophic heat waves, droughts, floods, and other worsening climate disasters. Is it really, though? I don't know. The failure of governments to stem this crisis has led to calls for more drastic interventions like solar geoengineering to curb the global temperature rise. Last year, the White House released a congressionally mandated report on how a research program into solar geoengineering would work. Such plans are highly controversial, however, with some scientists and environmental groups warning that meddling with the Earth's thermostat could have unintended consequences, such as altering monsoon season. There are also concerns about the lack of global governance around adding substances to our shared atmosphere, the potential for a huge temperature whiplash should the continual addition of sulfur via planes stop for any reason, and the danger that geoengineering could distract from the primary task of cutting planet heating emissions. Efforts by some researchers to run experiments on solar modification have met with protests. Oh dear. As the world continues to heat up, though, the conversation around solar geoengineering and related conspiracies is unlikely to abate. I think it's increasingly on the agenda of people who are wondering, where is our climate going, and how might we influence where it is going? Says Faho. Apparently, this is an unsettling time. But yeah, these guys are very much in with Oliver Millman. He's very much in with the whole climate change panic. I'm not really. Sorry, Oliver, I'm not playing that game. But I do think there is a potential legitimate reason to be studying these if our energy requirements become so monstrous that it does affect the climate even more. Then it's better to get in front of this. It's just annoying that we have to be suffering it from such insufferable people. Somebody might say if they weren't me and were very unkind, which I would never say such a thing. Me? I'm a good pick. It's true. But that is it for now. If you like the show, like the show. If you don't like the show, well, I don't know why you're here, but please do come back. But that is it for now. Pigwig, out.
Oink, oinkity, snort, snuffle, snuffle, squee, oink, oink, ree, squeal, snort, snort, oinkity, squee. Oink, 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 squee, squee, ree, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 ree, 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 snort, snuffle, oink, squee, squeal, ree, snort, oinky, oinkity, oink, oink, snuffle, ree, squee, snort, oink, squeal. Oink, 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 squee, squee, ree, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 ree, 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 oink, oinkity, snort, snuffle, snuffle, squee, oinkity, oink, oink, snuffle, ree, squee, snort, oink, squeal. Oink, 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 squee, squee, ree, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 ree, 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 squeal, squeal. Snort, snuffle, oink, ree, squeal, ree, snort, oinky, oinkity, oink, 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 snuffle, ree, squee, snort, oink, squeal. Oink, oink, oinkity, squee, squee, ree, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 ree,